Hi, I'm Steph from Glassworks and welcome to a new series that we are introducing, just bringing you the basics of some of the products that we offer here at the Cowshed. This video is going to be looking specifically at doors, and when I say doors, what I'm talking about are larger format doors, so lift and slide doors, sliding doors, and also bifold doors. Now, these are the types of doors that you would be putting into a larger opening, and it would be in different types of scenarios, whether that is a new build project, a refurbishment, or even an extension. Now, each one of these systems has its pros and cons, and it's not always the case that every option is going to be the right fit for every project. So the purpose of this video is to talk you through the functions and the features of each product so that you have as much information as possible in order to make the right choice for your project. The first option that we're going to have a look at is a lift and slide door. So this is a lift and slide door. This one is specifically from Internorm, although we have a number of different brand options for lift and slide doors, and there's a number of other options on the market. So the way in which a lift and slide door works is really quite simple. You see that the handle is in the down position at the moment. In order for the door to be locked, you turn the handle 108 degrees and that's it locked. When you turn the handle to the bottom, you can the mechanism lifts it and then you can slide the door along. Super simple. One of the benefits of a lift and slide door is that you can turn this handle anywhere along the track and that locks the door in place. So if you wanted to open the door just a couple of centimeters, a couple of feet, you would be able to do that in order to allow some fresh air to come into the building, and the door's going to stay exactly where you left it. One of the other features that we have on this specific lift and slide door is a feature called soft close, and effectively what that means is that if the door gets slammed, there's a mechanism which catches it and closes it softly, so that if there was any pets or children, the fingers aren't going to get stuck, somebody's not going to get injured. Another thing that I wanted to point out with a lift and slide door, and we see this a lot, is just the way in which you have to open it. One of the things with lift and slide is, exactly as I said in the beginning, there are some benefits, but there's also some slight drawbacks. One of the drawbacks of a lift and slide door is it can be quite heavy, and that can have an impact on how you open it. When you couple that with the soft close mechanism, that can also have an impact. So I always like to say to people, because this handle can turn, it's advantageous to not try and pull the handle at the bottom or put your hand too low. What you really need to do is put your hand on top of the door here and lean back. And that way you'll get a really smooth and really effortless opening and closing of the door. If we open the door up, there are a number of different additional features which we can do on a door like this. These include a glass-to-glass corner where the door itself goes along and then is integrated with a glass-to-glass corner. We can do external louver blinds, so if you think that your property is going to have a problem with overheating or you're looking for additional privacy, we can add louver blinds on the outside. And then on top of that, we can also add things like fly screens, and this one is a particularly nice design because it is a kind of concertina style fly screen, and so it comes all the way out, magnetically fixes into place, and then when you don't want it, slides out of the way, and it's nice and neat. It's a really nice feature because it helps to keep all the bugs and things like that out if you just want to get a wee bit of fresh air. Although one of the things that I would say is it does add a little bit of bulk in the middle of the door. So nice feature to have, but exactly as we've pointed out, there are pros and cons for all of these models. So as you can see from all of that information, lift and slide doors can be a really great option depending on your project. Now, one of the things to keep in mind is that lift and slide doors have the mechanism within the frame. So within that scenario, the frame tends to be around 90 to 110 millimeters. In some instances, people are looking for slimmer frames, so you always have to keep that in mind when you're specifying the type of doors. These doors that we offer tend to come in a 2-panel configuration or 1 track. So the scenario there is that you have a sash that moves along the track and you have 1 sash that's fixed. Within that 2-panel configuration, generally speaking, we can do each panel roughly about 3 meters wide by 2.8 to 3 meters high. So in the 2-panel configuration, that would result in a maximum width of 6 meters by 3 meters high. If you were looking for a wider configuration, we can also do these doors in what we call a 4-panel configuration. So effectively, the 2 outer panes are fixed and the 2 inner panes slide and then come together in the middle in order to lock into each other. And that would provide a scenario where you would be able to have a much wider and a much bigger door. So those are really great if you say you're doing a kitchen extension and you've got a big opening at the end of that new extension, or if you're doing a new build house and you want to have a big open plan kitchen, dining, living room, because the lift and slide doors can potentially span most or all of that elevation, and it brings lots of light in, gives you lots of flexibility in terms of how you move through that space. Now, one thing that we always take time to say to people is, lift and slide doors are great, but only if the opening that you're looking to put them in is sufficiently wide enough. And we generally say to people, if you have an opening of 2 meters or less, we wouldn't necessarily recommend a lift and slide door for that application. And the reason for that is, in the 2-panel configuration with the slightly wider frames, once you open the sliding door, because you've got the frame on both sides, whether that's the fixed side or the sliding side, if it's 2 meters and the sliding panel is 1 meter, once you take off the 100mm either side, you're probably only going to be left with about 800 to 850 clear opening in order to go in and out. So again, all of these things need to be taken into consideration as part of the design process, and have discussions with us along the way in order for us to help you get the exact product that you need for your project. At Glassworks, we offer both Internorm and Daco in lift and slide doors, and they are available in the following material configurations. So first of all, we have timber aluminium. We also have timber. We then have UPVC aluminium and all UPVC. So there are a number of different material choices and a number of different options to choose from. So the next option that we're going to look at is a sliding door, and this is a more simplistic option than a lift and slide door. It doesn't have the mechanism within the frame. The way in which the door operates is that there is a track that the door runs in, and there are rollers within that track, and the door slides backwards and forwards. It can be locked in place and it can be opened and closed, and that's literally as straightforward as this type of option goes. Now, one of the great benefits of this type of door is because that you don't have any of the mechanism or anything like that within the frame itself, we can get much slimmer sight lines on these types of products. Now, again, this is a great advantage if you have really amazing views at your project, or you're looking to maximize the amount of glass that you have and bring as much light into your building as possible, because you're maximizing the glass, minimizing the frame. Let's have a closer look. So this is a sliding door, and exactly as I mentioned when we were looking at the first option, there are pros and cons to all of these scenarios. Ultimately, it comes down to what you're looking for and what's going to best fit your project. So if we're looking at this type of door, you can see very simple operation. Unlike the lift and slide door, we're not turning a handle. You're simply locking, unlocking the door, and the door slides on the runners. When the door is in the closed position, it has a really slim sight line. This one here is 28mm, which when you compare it to the sight line on a lift and slide door, it's almost nothing. It's a quarter of the width that we were looking at in the other option. So again, looking at the different scenarios, you need to weigh up exactly what is important to you in terms of your project. Now, In order for the door to operate, it rolls along these runners here. And in this scenario, the runners are exposed and you can't see them. Personally, I don't mind it. It really feeds into the operation of the system and how it works. But it's not for everybody. So you really need to come in, see the products and have a look at what that looks like in order to make a decision on whether or not it's the system for you. Most sliding doors that you'll find on the market will be all aluminium. So that's to say aluminium on the outside and the inside. And that feeds into what we've spoken about already in terms of the slim sightlines, because this material has a much better structural integrity and we can do it in a slimmer orientation, and that way, you know, we don't have as much frame. However, one of the negatives or one of the cons of this type of system is that the U values don't tend to be as low as the lift and slide option. Now that's not to say that we can't hit really good U values. It's still possible to hit 0.8, 0.9, 1.0 with all aluminium sliding doors, but again it comes down to the configuration and the specification of those products. So these products do come in double glazed or triple glazed, and really the majority of doors which we offer are triple glazed as standard in order to get the maximum performance out of this type of product. So another great feature of sliding doors, and specifically all aluminium sliding doors, is that they can come with what you can see here, which is an integrated drainage channel, and that comes as part of the system itself, so you don't have to put in a separate drainage. It would all come delivered and completely integrated into the product itself. So the importance of the integrated drainage is that it prevents any external rainwater or any standing water from being pushed up against the outside of the track, the outside of the door during high winds and things like that. We always recommend that you have some type of channel drain on the outside of any of these types of systems, whether it's a lift and slide, a sliding door or a bifold. It really helps to prevent any risk of moisture getting into the front of the door. So to summarize the sliding door option, these can come in a number of different configurations. So they can come in exactly the same as the lift and slide, which is a 2-panel configuration, but we can also go beyond that. So we can do 3 panels, so it's a triple track, 2 sliding, 1 fixed. We can do 4 panel, 5 and even up to 6. It's a really flexible system, and it gives you lots of options depending on the width and height of the opening that you have. The other area where these can be really useful is if you have a smaller opening but you're not interested in going for something like a French door. Because it has such a slim sightline and a slim frame, that allows you to maximize the opening width that you would be able to achieve, and it really helps to kind of open up that space, bring lots of light into the room and still allow you to go in and out really quickly and easily. And the last option that we are going to look at is a bifold door. Now, slightly controversial. Some people love them, some people hate them. And exactly as we've said throughout this whole video and touching on the different systems, everything has its place and there are pros and cons to everything that we've looked at. So we do offer bifolds, and bifolds can be great because ultimately it gives you, unlike any of the other options that we've looked at, it gives you an option to have a large opening and slide the system completely out the way so that you have the full width of the opening to go inside to out. It really brings home that sense of indoor-outdoor living, and it can be a really great option if that's the type of scenario that you're looking for. Some of the pros with a bifold door are what you've just seen there. They can be specified with a pass door, which is what this is. So ultimately, this operates as a door. and it works on these hinges when the bifold is in the locked position. So if you're looking for a way to access the garden quickly, this operates as a standard door. You have to specify it like this. It doesn't always come like this as standard. The other pro that we think is the biggest is exactly as I said earlier. You can open the whole door and you get the full width of that opening, so you get that indoor-outdoor living. Couple of the cons with bifolds is that unfortunately in Scotland or the UK in general, we probably don't get the right type of weather to be able to open that door fully all the way throughout the year. So the reality of this type of system is you're probably only going to open it a handful of times throughout the year. So is it worth, you know, putting up with some of the negatives of the door in order to have that flexibility maybe 6 times a year? The other negative that we feel is that we've spoke a lot about frame widths and sightlines and things like that. Bifold doors are multiple sashes stitched together by hinges, which then concertina when you open them. And the downside of that is you always have a double frame where those 2 sashes come together. And as you can see here, it's probably about 140 to 150 millimeters. So it's really quite chunky, and it means that you've got more frame, less glass, i.e. less light, more obstructions. At Glassworks, our main focus is energy efficiency and providing low energy products. And with bifold doors, because you've got so much frame, the frame is always the worst performing part of any system. So you're looking to try and maximize the glass, minimize the frame if you're trying to get the best possible performance. Unfortunately, bifolds do have a lot of frame. On top of that, every single place where this moves and comes together, you've got multiple gaskets and multiple elements of hinges and things like that that all need to operate together and perfectly in order to get this to move smoothly. And when it's in the open position, it's a lot of weight sitting on 2 points. So it is possible for bifolds to move, and they might need some adjustment. And again, it's just something to keep in mind when you're making your selection. So that gives you a summary of the different types of options that are available if you're doing a new build, renovation or extension project, and you have a large opening and you're looking to put some type of door into that. One additional piece of information is that all of the options that we have shown here today can come with integrated electrical operation. So at the push of a button, the door would open and close. And then we can also add things like fingerprint scanners or keypad entry. I think it's really important to remember that ultimately there's no right or wrong option when you're looking to specify a door. Ultimately, everybody's different, everybody has their preference, and the most important thing from us is that you see, feel and touch. So the best advice that we could give you is reach out to somebody that supplies these types of products and go to the showroom so that you can actually play around with things and see how they feel. Feel the weight of a lift and slide door, have a look at the mechanism on the sliding door, and look at the different options and impact of all the frame on the bifold, because that's the only way you're going to get a real life representation of what it's going to look like in your project. So thank you very much for your time today. We hope that you found this video and information included really helpful. If you have made it to the end of the video, then well done. You are completely well versed on all the different options for your new build, refurb or extension. If you found the information and advice that we are giving in this video helpful, then what we would really appreciate is if you could subscribe, like the video, and as always, if you've got any comments or need any additional help, just put it in the comments below. Thanks again for your time. We look forward to seeing you soon.